This week is going to be pretty tough. A very massive week that we're about to witness here. So we got the S&P 500 looking as bearish as possible to me. So on the weekly chart, we have a ton of volume here. This is obviously the quad witch, so this isn't going to show any true movement. Obviously, if you look back on Friday, there wasn't a ton of movement at all. Just kind of chopping back and forth, really bouncing around. A lot of expirations happening there. So when I look at this daily chart, though, not the 4-hour, the daily chart looks pretty weak to me. So this is a bearish Harami bar, whatever you want to call it. I call it the Harami bar, bearish Harami. But an inside candle just like this on the downside looks pretty good to clear this downward path. I personally think that we're going to see this sub 380. That is some biasness. So this week is going to be pretty tough. I'm not going to lie. There's going to be a lot of movement that's going to happen just because of the interest rate hike. There's a lot of talk that there's going to be no interest rate hike whatsoever because of the banking collapse, because something broke, and we're not exactly sure what is going on out there. Everybody's saying that we're fine. But the Federal Reserve is basically showing a lot of files that are showing true panic, but they're not going to say that blatantly to us. So if it's a 0.25 basis point hike, I'm sure that the market's going to kind of be almost like stagnant in a way, because there's a few ways you could think about this psychologically. The market could do 0 rate hikes, and then what? That means that something broke, so they're a little worried something's going on. So that could spike fear, that could spark optimism. There's no real direction. The really only thing that we can pay attention to is our levels on the chart. So let's go through this daily chart real quick. I really like this from this downtrend. Let's take a look at this. Here is kind of like this almost like descending triangle starting to form a little bit here. So if we break above this 393, 394, and get above that 395, I wouldn't be surprised to see us push towards that 400. Like I said, I'm not exactly sure which way it's going to go. I'm more on the bearish side, but here's another big piece of support right down here is this 385. Now there is another one that's much higher, and I don't think we're going to get a lot of movement until that Wednesday hike. So I think Monday could be choppy. I think the premiums are going to be really expensive in anticipation for the meeting, which could also be really great on the selling contract side. So we're going to get into that in a second as well. But there are 3 main levels that I'm watching. So I'm watching this 390 breakdown. 390 could easily push us right down to this 386. Below 386, I would easily love to see that 380. So we could see some real hard selling pressure here coming up this week as well. But it all depends on what the Federal Reserve says on Wednesday. So huge meeting on Wednesday. I don't know if I'm going to take too many positions until then. The only one that I really like is maybe Chewy, because they have earnings on Wednesday as well. The premiums are so high. So this looks really hot. This looks really weak right here. This rejection candle right here might sell a put around this 37 range. This is my goal here, because when I look at the option contract chart over here, if I sell these instead of buying them, I can collect the premium. So look at how the overinflated these are. 130% implied volatility percentage, $24 overnight, and they're about $200. So if this can get down to 37, these will be worth about $200 a piece. I would sell, 2, 3, 4, 5 of these, whatever it is, however much cash you have in your account, you could sell. You have to have enough cash for 100 shares to sell these. But if you sell 2 or 3 of these and you have about 8 to 12,000 in your account, you can sell these, or even just one is about 4K, 3,600 actually. It says 3,600 right now. I don't know why it says the spread is so large, but I'm looking at it right now. It looks like the 3,600 level could be, or $36 level could be pretty good for an entry to sell some of these puts, maybe around that 37. So that's around $3,700 you just need to have in cash in order to sell, and you can collect about $200 in premium. Buy it back, obviously, before the earnings announcement, unless you're super risky. I personally would not be risky for that, but I could collect some premium while the premiums are very inflated. I'm also looking at Nike because they have earnings on Tuesday. Not so much opportunity in my eyes over here. I don't think that there's a lot of big movements that could happen here. I think it might just be overinflated. Just pay attention to Nike. Retail could be a good opportunity here, and it's kind of on the weekly chart having a nice little downtrend situation. If it breaks out, could push towards that 130 mark. So Nike contracts could go up towards that 130 price. I don't know if I would play this, but potentially they're pretty cheap, 180 to 500. So we'll see. That's the same weeks. Most likely would do the next week just because of theta decay. But yeah, that's kind of what I'm watching for Nike. And then SPY, like I said, those downside levels, I'm not seeing too much. I'm not very confident this week, but I do love this downside if we can start getting very bearish here. This is a nice bearish candle on the weekly chart. Tried to retest it up here a little bit more, got rejected entirely, so this is a bearish sign to me, and I would not be surprised to see this 380. To be honest, I'd be most happy to see this 375 coming back from this weekly chart. If you look back about a couple weeks now, about 10, 12 weeks ago, we were around on this 375. So this is my massive target. Obviously, this is far-fetched because we're already at 390. $15 drop is not unlikely, but that's kind of my goal. I'm very bearish, so I'm looking for that 390 breakdown, hit that 385, potentially this 380, and then my max goal will be this 375. So looking for a lot of downside here this week. Not sure if we're going to get it. Meta started to reverse off that $200 test, so look for this to have some weakness as well. This daily chart looks a little overextended. Finally starting to break down. Could go back down towards this 190, if not more. NVIDIA has a lot of weakness as well. People are talking about this all over Twitter, how this is starting to form a shooting star candle. Shooting star candles are very weak, but it didn't close below this gap fill just yet, so we might see a bounce. Be careful of this, but NVIDIA looks good on the downside. I'm very bearish this week, even though Bitcoin and Ethereum are absolutely ripping. So these are up to 28,000, and Ethereum is up to 1,800 for the first time in a very long time. So crypto's looking good. Market's not looking so good as a whole. Economy's not looking good either, but go with the momentum. Play these levels. I'm watching that SPY 390, 385, and 380 breakdown, on top of maybe selling some contracts for Chewy just to take advantage of the premiums. But keep it very, very light until Wednesday after the announcement, because these premiums are going to be inflated, and you shouldn't just be buying things because they're going to be very, very expensive and you could get burned. So good luck this week. Wednesday is going to be a battle, but after that movement, we should see a lot of volatility, so you can take advantage of potentially these downside levels. But one last thing is, if we are bullish above this 395, we could potentially see that 400 level. I don't think that's going to happen, but stranger things have happened. So good luck, and let me know if you need me.